Isn't it time that we have a national conversation as a country? The economy is tanking, taxes are rising, things are going down the tubes. All we can hear is all about political peccadillos and chicanery. It is time that we had a conversation in this country. It is time that we declutter and have a real conversation. And this is Siasa Bomba. I am Dibala Nair. Welcome to today's installment of Siasa Bomba. My name is Dibala Nair and I am stoked and glad that you're joining us on this installment today where we're training our focus on population. I was going through amazing statistics on the world data. That is worlddata.info, where they're giving us this rich seam of information regarding population in Kenya. From 1960 to 2020, the population of Kenya increased from 8.1 million to 53.77 million people. Now, this is a growth by 563.4% in 60 years. That is an eye-popping percentage. The highest increase in Kenya was recorded in 1979 with 4.74%. Now, the smallest increase was in 2020 with 2.28%. How does this augur well with the resources? Because we know that the prevailing population growth rate remains above the country's resources in spite of endeavors to manage the population. And this is where we are centering our focus today on population growth, on development of the economy in Kenya, and what has been its impact. And I want to unveil our panelists today who are going to, of course, drive this particular show with me to just give us also their ton of thoughts on where we're headed. Kenya remains the same with the map not really expanding. So what is happening with our population and the resources? With me on set today is Dr. Douglas Kivoi, who's a Principal Policy Analyst, Governance Department, the Kenya Institute of Public Policy Research and Analysis, that is KIPRA. And Douglas Lucas Kivoi holds a PhD degree in Ethics and African Philosophy from the University of Nairobi. He is distinguished by his passion for research, focusing on good governance. He has attended a number of invited international conferences where he has presented papers and given speeches. Presently, Dr. Kivoi works as a senior policy analyst with the Kenya Institute of Public Policy and Research Analysis, which is I've just mentioned. So he will be taking us through that. Of course, that is a research department of the government where we'll get rich stream of information from them as well. And also we have with me Dr. Nzomo Mulatya. Dr. Nzomo Mulatya is a Deputy Director, Programs Coordination, National Council for Population Development, a demographer, and an environmental planning and management professional with a double master degrees in population studies and environmental planning and management from the University of Nairobi. He has over 20 years in research in population and development and environment and sustainable development in Kenya. He has worked as a senior settlement officer in the Ministry of Lands and Physical Planning and currently serves, as I've mentioned, as a Deputy Director of Population and Head of Population Program. Right, so we're in safe hands experientially, we're in safe hands in terms of knowledge as well. So let's take it from the ground and move on. Of course, you can also hit us on Twitter, use the hashtag Siasa Bomba to peg your thoughts as well. Right, let me just begin first of all with you, Mr. Nzomo, because yes, to give us a situation analysis, and I'm given to understand the last time that you did population situation analysis report was in 2013. What is the current state of play?
Okay, thank you very much. What I would say is that Kenya has registered rapid population growth. And since 1969, when we carried out a national census, the population of Kenya has increased from 10.9 million to 47.6 million in the last census, which was undertaken in 2019. So what I would say is that the population of Kenya has increased so much. And it has increased so much uh, um, to the extent that is not commensurate with the natural resources, because the country boundaries are fixed. And since the country boundaries are fixed, then it means that all that population increase which are taking place is confined within the boundaries of Kenya, which were decided at independence in 1963. Yes.
Right, so we're actually looking and standing at the sharpest stage of a dilemma as far as resources is concerned. Let me just hear from Kivoi, given that statistics, and of course I went back hacking into history from where we started, where we are at. Is it a niggling worry? And no one is really talking about this.
For me, the increase in population is not a problem.
It's not a problem.
Yes. Because if the standards of living are going up, mortality rate, infant mortality rate goes down, we have got a better health service provision. What do we expect? Population has to grow. And that is our biggest asset that any country can ever have.
Right, if your biggest assets, if you have the commensurate resources.
That is why resources are there. Kenya, we don't have a challenge with the resources. The problem we have is how to exploit the resources that we have and planning. How do we plan for what we have? Anybody who has done marketing, anybody who has done agriculture, you know very well that if you are producing and you go to the labor market or even at the any ordinary market, are you consuming what other people are producing or what you are producing? So if you have a big population, then everybody will be quoting you. Look at China. It has the biggest population in the world, but the world can't ignore China. Yes.
All right, so you talk of assets, and we have this demographic dividend of young people in this country.
Absolutely.
They're a good asset.
Yes.
But now deploying them in different sectors of employment, as it were, Mr. Nzomo, is a problem. So you were saying, oh, it's not a niggling worry, it shouldn't be, but still we have this youthful vigor that has not been tapped into, and this is a huge asset, as he says. So there's, that's mismatching of the assets, which will say the assets is a resource. The youthful bulge is a resource, yes.
Yes,
but where do we deploy them? There's no employment.
Yeah, thank you very much. In fact, what I would say is that, population growth, to me, is not a problem. But what is a problem is the quality of population we are having.
The quality of population.
Yes.
All
Do we
right.
have a population which is able to to save and also invest? Because if we have a population of people who are poor, then it means that the country now has to spend a lot of resources trying to uplift the standard of these poor people. So that's why you find that because we are poor, that's why we have these cash transfer programs for the elderly. Yeah, because most of the households are poor. So the government is spending a lot of money to transfer cash to the elderly to caution them against poverty. And also we find that we have done a lot of investment in social sectors. Why do we invest in social sectors? Yeah, it's because people are poor, households are poor, cannot afford education for their children. So we end up government providing bursaries and grants through CDF and other funds to caution the population from poverty. So the government is left with very little resources to invest in development planning, in infrastructure development and others.
Good.
So if we have a quality population like China and the other countries, then the government will have enough resources to invest in development.
Thank you, thank you. Yes. I think you raised a very important point and a good one for that matter. I like the aspect of the quality of population. And recently also doing in the rounds in the media was a story about, the drought and the famine that the country is going through right now. It's amazing that in this country, looking at the last global hunger index, Kenya is actually ranked 18 in the world, for that matter. I want to ask that particular question he raises of the quality of population. Yes, we know that we have a youthful bulge. If you say that population is good for the country, why then, in 2012, did the government of Kenya pass a landmark policy to manage its rapid population growth? Yeah, the new population policy was aiming, and maybe you'll tell me because you've been there, to reduce the number of children a woman has over her lifetime from 5 in 2009 to 3 by 2030. And I remember the Minister of Planning then was Honorable Paranya. In fact, actually, he was advocating that every family should have 2 children because it is unsustainable. Still, you say that having a youthful or having a population bulge is good for the country, but the quality of population is a question he's putting on the table.
Quality of population. Who does the planning? It is us Kenyans to sit down and the government officers, county government and national government, to plan for the people that are within these borders. I agree with you when you say it's a big shame that we are still talking about drought and hunger in Kenya in 2021, 2022. Drought does not drop from the skies. There are signs when drought is coming. You mean we cannot foresee drought is coming? That's a natural occurrence. So you cannot say, for example, I feel disappointed when I see economic forecasters saying that the economy of Kenya did not grow because of drought. There are countries that are deserts all through, but they don't mention about it when they are doing their forecasting. They are able to feed their population. Planning is the key. Do you plan for your people? Us individually in our homes, you plan for your families. I don't agree with the idea of telling me or telling any Kenyan about the number of children they should have. We are paying taxes to the government. What we should be asking ourselves is the little resources or the big resources that we have, what are we doing with it? Look at the money that is given to counties by the national government. Look at the reports of the Auditor General, the reports from the Office of Control of Budget. Look at the level of wastage. It is reported, they are documented, it's there, it's in the public domain. So we should not even be talking about us not having resources. We have enough resources. The only problem is how are our priorities? Our priorities are what matters. We should plan that next year we are going to have an increase of say 1 million citizens coming. Kenyans will increase by 1 million. That is something that economic forecasters can tell. Even our colleague here is a demographic expert.
Yes.
So when the moment you make that projection, then it means you have to plan for it. You cannot make that projection and then keep quiet.
So this is a poor planning from your department, because you have all these projections from 1960, and given that particular percentile or percentage that we just raised, that it's really an eye-popping figure. Is it a poor planning that is coming from government? Because as I say, drought, it doesn't just happen out of the blue. That yes, it's just upon us all woken up and people are dying, and yeah, it is forecasted. It is something that you can see and you can plan as well. Is it poor planning that is coming from government? When you have all this information, where do you have also that nexus and you cognate ideas from the research, KIPRA, and also your department at the end of the day?
Okay, thank you very much. In fact, what I would say is that, you see, it's not, I would say that it's a question of poor planning. It's a question of inadequacy of resources. Because we have had budget over the years, but most of the time, we end up not being able to mobilize enough resources to implement our activities. We've tried most of...
What sort of resources are we talking about?
We are talking about, you see, Kenya, if you look at it, it's debt-ridden. Debt-ridden because we rely on donors for the implementation of our projects. Domestic financing has not been so much because people are poor. How do you tax the poor people?
But we're being overtaxed.
We are
overtaxed. No, you're talking about, are we being taxed? And look at what we are one of the countries in the world who are highly taxed.
Yeah.
Where does this money go? If now you pay in the hand that you extend it to the donors all the time, I'm surprised that you're saying that all these projects that you cannot actually be steamrolled because there is no finance, there is no resources, and you're looking at the donors.
Yeah, but you see, finances are pegged on, resources are pegged on the number of people we have in this country. And as I mentioned...
But exactly, Mr. Nzomo, what sort of resources are we looking at? Because if you've just mentioned resources, this is very amorphous. I want to know, this is a sort of, this is the sort of support that we want, be it maybe in research, be it in mobilization to the counties that we have it right now. Because I am assuming you and KIPRA, what is the difference in such? It is a research organization just as you are, isn't it?
Yes.
Or what's the difference? What's the difference between KIPRA and you?
The problem, I don't want to say, I will not agree with my colleague when he says that Kenya does not have sufficient resources. We have enough resources. The only problem is that we may never have what we think we need, we require, but we have enough resources to plan. We can still plan with our meager resources and still get our targets and priorities right. I take offense. I get very offended when I see Kenyans saying that even for us to grow food, we need donors to come in. That's not how we should be looking at our country in 2022. You don't need donors to tell you to grow maize to feed ourselves. Look at what happened in Galana Gulalu irrigation scheme. We know the story. That was a donor-funded project. When we had President Mwai Kibaki as a president, we were able to generate our resources to fund government programs.
Domestically?
Yes, domestically. So my point is this country is rich. So you only need to plan well for the little resources that we have. So it's good to look outside to donor support or development partner support, but that they cannot fund. They should not be funding
all projects.
All projects.
Yeah, we should not be looking outside all the time with a
Yes.
pail in the hand. Yeah, but I want to just, is it a matter of poor planning or, when it comes to priority, you're not giving the premium, to the, what should I say, to the highest priority? They are skewed a bit.
Yeah, for me, I would say, you see, where does the planning start?
Where does the planning start?
The planning starts at the household, not at the national level. It's aggregated from the household to the national level. So if you look at most of the households in Kenya, what is happening? Like right now, I have I belong to a number of WhatsApp groups.
Yes.
Where we are raising funds to meet funeral expenses, medical expenses, school fees, and other expenses. Why are we doing that? It's because most of the households now cannot afford some of those services. And that's why we are pulling up together, doing Arambis and all that. Yeah, so that we can support the households which are poor, so that we can support our relatives and other people who are in need of services. The aim is translating to the government. If at also level we cannot afford some of those services, then what does it translate to the government? It means that the government now is spending whatever little resources they have.
But
To support
Mr.
these
Kivoi is just giving you a good example of Kibaki's administration. And I remember we had flush of finances. Cash flow was good in this country. The banks were begging you to actually come and get loans,
Yes.
right?
They
We
are
were
hawking
not
them in
looking
the
outside
streets.
for the fundings of this particular. Domestically, he encouraged
but-
people to actually invest. He encouraged also the banks to give out. There was money.
But what was happening?
KRA was actually generating, a lot of revenue,
yes.
and their taxes were skyrocketing.
But what was happening at the household level then? You see, sometimes we talk of the GDP having increased over time, the gross domestic product.
Yes.
But what about the multiplier effect? What is that multiplier effect? Does it translate to the improvement of quality of life of people at the grassroots?
But that is a wrong metrics that maybe we are
you-
using
you know at the
as
national-
government to tell us that the growth percentage from the GDP is this certain percentile.
Yes.
Maybe the metrics that we use also on to gauge the growth of a country should not be GDP, because it is not giving the current state of play and the reality on the ground.
Yeah, it's true. Remember, the Kenya also did a great budget also survey of 1915-2016. Indicated that poverty levels had gone down from 46% to 36.7%. But you see, those are the percentage. But when you look at the absolute numbers of people who are poor, the numbers increased, although the percentage went down. But the absolute numbers keep on increasing because the population is also increasing. Yes. So as we increase, the absolute number of people who are poor also increases.
But
So the demands, if you look at Nairobi,
yes,
for instance, Nairobi, what has happened? The infrastructure development which are taking place here, urbanization which is taking place here. you see that now the developments which are taking place in Nairobi and the very urban areas of Kajiado, Kiambu, you find that now it has eaten up on our best agricultural areas. Ruaka now is part of Nairobi, though Ruaka is in Kiambu. Rongai, Kitangela, is part of Nairobi, but it's in Kajiado. We are losing out through urbanization and also development, which is taking place in this country. And I remember there was an article in the newspaper saying that the number of billionaires have increased. The number of billionaires at around 10 million, but the number of poor people, it's over 50 million, it's 40 million or so. So the economy of this country is controlled by very few people. The rest are poor.
Yeah.
The Teacher Service Commission now has been crying, saying that they don't have enough teachers. And they have been appealing to the government to provide the resources, funds, so that they can employ teachers. Doctors, the same way, in the medical care. And some of the doctors are even leaving and going out of the country, because they cannot get absorbed by the economy because we are poor. So when we say we are rich, and when we say that we are poor planning, and if you look at the ratio of one policeman to the population, it's not commensurate with the international standard. The ratio of pupil-teacher ratio is also not commensurate with the international standard. Doctor-patient ratio is also not commensurate with the international standard, meaning that service delivery has been hampered by lack of resources in this country. We are importing maize. Every year we import maize. Like now we have appealed to the international community to come and help us now mitigate against the effect of drought, which is likely to which is already taking place because in the Lower Eastern, already crops have failed.
All right, so when you talk about resources, because we are agri-driven country with around 57.5% of our total employment in that particular sector, according to the 2018 research. But when we talk about resources, while we're never gazing on the natural resources, people are gravitating towards service delivery, isn't it? Right? Look at Ethiopia right now. I mean, it is a service-driven economy. We have banks, we have insurances firms. Safaricom also wants to go and relocate there. When you talk about resources, I think maybe we need to also broaden our understanding in terms of we have this pool of people that we can use in service delivery. I don't know what, Kivoi, you have to say.
Can I say something about that?
Please do.
Yes. Already we have what we are calling demographic dividend.
Yes.
The youth bunch is an asset and also a challenge to us.
Yes.
It's both an asset and a challenge. Why is it an asset? It's an asset because if we tap that youth bunch, we'll be able to drive the economic development of this country. It has happened in East Asia, the so-called Asian tigers, because they invested heavily on the youth. But in this country, you find that though we have a youth bunch, but are these youth equipped with the requisite skills for them to get employment? Do we have enough employment opportunities to absorb these youth so that these youth can earn income, save, and drive economic development of this country?
Mr. Nzomo, it's laughable when you tell me that do we have opportunities for the youth, and yet we have also the legislators who are putting on the table the geriatric bills that they want to recall all public servants who have retired because of their experience and expertise back to the sector, which is looking out that population of the youth that you're really talking about, right? Think about that, because I think we have our country and our thinking in this country in a very topsy-turvy manner, right? We don't have people who can actually mentor young guys so that they can take up on these particular jobs. Now they have to be recalled. Where is the finances even just to pay, for their services at the end of the day? And you're talking about a government which is, their coffers are dry. Let's hear from Dr. Kivoi.
Yeah.
Do you agree, first of all, with what he's really saying, especially, and what I've really raised about, the geriatric bills that is actually on the floor of the House? People are discussing it, and they're considering recalling the retirees.
I would like to agree with the one thing he has raised about urbanization eating into land that is meant for agriculture. Because it would be a disaster. It is always a disaster if a country is not able to feed itself. Before you go and import, are you able to feed yourself? In this country, we even import toothpicks. Now, that now goes to people who deal in urban planning, the zoning. Yes, zoning. Soon the whole of Kiambu will be buildings. Kiambu is an agricultural-rich county. Now, I want to come to the issue of recalling retired public sector employees to come. Right now, we are aware that the government has frozen recruitment in the public sector. Of course, the government is the biggest employer in any country. Now, the government has frozen recruitment in the public sector unless it is so urgent, like in the health sector and the security sector, they still employ. But you need to ask yourself, where did the rain start beating us? Remember when the World Bank and other Bretton Woods institutions came up with this structural adjustment program? That's where the rain started beating us. And right now in 2022, we are headed there again. That's why I'm telling you, we don't have to look outside to solve our problems. We should look at ourselves. Let's look within. If there is any development partner or donor in quotes who wants to support what we are doing, then we should do it. We should not rely on World Bank coming to tell Kenya, freeze recruitment of teachers. Yet, we all know education so far remains the only avenue that we can use to fight poverty. If we don't invest in education, then how are we going to fight poverty? If we don't invest in the public health, how shall we improve the quality of living of our people? If we don't invest in the youth, right now, as I speak to you, and I can confidently tell you, it is a crime to be young in this country. Yes, because the moment you meet a police officer out there and you are young, chances of you being stopped are almost, the probability is almost 1. You will be stopped and interrogated. And I always advise my young colleagues, if you are stopped by a police officer, even if you are right, don't engage quarreling them. Because chances are you might end up in police cells or it might be fatal. So it's really a point of concern for me. If you speak to the youth, especially in informal settlements, those are people we should be using for economic productivity. Look at the statistics that are released by the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics. Most people who are incarcerated for minor crimes, they are below 40 years old. That is a very productive age group. Over 50% of the people in prisons who are jailed between 1 month up to around 3 or 4 years, I'm forgetting the exact number of years, are people below the age of 40. And that's the most productive. And their offenses are minor offenses. They just say liquor-related offenses. Should someone who has consumed liquor be taken to jail? Those are young people. We need to use them. We need to utilize their skills. Creativity it happens at that age. The young man, the fellow who founded Facebook, I remember I met him in some conference in Spain when he was just founding Facebook, and I was doing my master's in KU at that time. Right now, he's one of the richest people in the world. What is it that we are not doing for young people in this country that we ought to start thinking about in 2022 to engage them productively? Instead of waiting for electioneering time, then we start engaging them to cause violence and skirmishes or drive away or beat up their opponents. We need to engage our young people productively, provide for them opportunities, have policies. So of the 47 counties right now, as I speak here, only Makueni County is the one that I know that has developed a policy for its young people. What are the other counties doing? Right. You know, it's not a responsibility of national government only. Yes. Even the county governments must come in and ask themselves, what are they going to do for our young people to engage them productively. The more productive they are, it means you
Thank you.
raise revenue.
A good point you raised, and we are pinched for time. We need to be winding up. Mr. Nzomo, but I'll be remiss if I don't ask you this briefly, because he says that we're not really tapping this, youth budget that we do have. We can see worldwide what is happening, even with the countries like Japan, Germany, and many of these Nordic countries where there were policies even before, like China, our own one-child policy. Now they're reversing that because of the aging population. Are we also in a safe place as a country, since we have these assets? They are actually calling for our young people to come and take over these jobs in Germany, I know, right? Our doctors, our nurses, our engineers. They're saying, hey, you're welcome, get a visa, come and work for us. So when we're talking about, tapping into this particular asset, there are people who are eagerly waiting to tap into the asset.
Yeah, the issue here is that,
Briefly, sir.
we have a large proportion of young people, but then the question is, do they have the requisite skills? Do they have the requisite skills to get decent
But
jobs?
these countries are willing to train them.
You are willing to train
They're
them, and
willing to
that's
give them
why
scholarships.
And that is why we had to undertake our education reform, and that's why now we are now emphasizing on CBC, competence-based curriculum, so that we start tapping the talent of the youth right from the childhood as they grow up, so that when they grow up, they'll become professionals who have particular talents and service to offer to the country. Because right now, the kind of graduates we have produced, some of them are general specialists. They're generalists. So they don't have those specific skills
Specialized,
for them to specialize skills to promote economic growth in this country, and also to get decent work and gainful employment. That's why you find that most of the youth, some are matatu touts, what. These are the people we should try to invest on their skills. And that's why already Kenya has adopted African Union demographic dividend roadmap. We now have a Kenya demographic roadmap where we have identified the skills which are needed for the youth in order to enable them gain requisite skills to enable this country to grow.
So how dramatically different is that with the Kenya Employment Youth Program from the Ministry of Health, from the Ministry of Gender and Youth?
Yeah, we work closely with those ministries. Yeah, because in the population, if you look at the population policy, our population policy is multi-sectoral in nature. It cuts across all the relevant sectors of the economy. And we work closely with the Ministry of Youth, because youth forms a bigger proportion of the Kenyan population. To us, youth is very important, because it's only the youth who, it's only investment in youth which can help this country grow.
Right.
Just like the way they have done in the
Thank you.
East Asia.
Right, thank you. Dr. Kivoi, 20 seconds to give you closing remarks, and also I'll give you 20 seconds closing remarks, very, very brief.
The youth of this country have been let down. We have let down our youth. We need to tap into this huge resource for the development of a country, and not encouraging them to engage in betting. That's the only economic activity they can do right now. And how sustainable is betting? We need to engage them by empowering them with the requisite skills that they need in this country, even outside. And my colleague says that we don't have that they may not have the skills that are required in the labor market. To the best of my knowledge, I don't think there is any survey that has been done to gauge the skills that the labor market needs. The same youths we don't support here are doing very well in Botswana, Namibia, South Africa, Canada, Dubai, Abu Dhabi.
So the list
yes,
is endless.
Yes, the list is endless.
Thank you very much. All right, Mr. Nzomo, your 20 seconds as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Me, what I'll say is that, first of all, I'll congratulate the universities, and because of what the move they have taken. they are based on some courses, which you are making youth unemployable. And I would say this is a move in the right direction. And also the government has also rebranded the so-called village polytechnics. They are now called vocational training centers and technical institutes. And that's now by promoting them, now they are going to create a pool of skills. You know, not people at managerial level, university degrees and all that, but a pool of skills which youth can use to gain employment, either to self-employ themselves or to get employment in other sectors.
Thank you. I want to thank you, Mr. Nzomo Mulatya, the Deputy Director, Programs Coordination, National Council for Population Development, and also Dr. Douglas Kivoi, Principal Policy Analyst, Governance Department, the Kenya Institute for Public Policy Research and Analysis. Thank you for graciously consenting to be part of this conversation, which, of course, within the time that we've had, we cannot really broach all the issues. There's a lot that we normally also tackled, but I want to thank you nonetheless for a very engaging conversation. And of course, you've heard from them. It's up to you now to decide where we are as a country. Do you think what Mr. Nzomo and what Kivoi have put on the table is what really brooding in your understanding and thinking about it? Because we are actually facing a spectre that is just awaiting to explode with the youth bulge. Or will we see a lot of them also getting out of this country soon? Thank you very much for your valid company. You've been watching Siasa Bomba. My name is Tupalaya. On behalf of our panelists, I want to say thank you also for them.